And just like that, the party was over. Today, we are continuing our series called Encounters with Jesus. We're taking a look at all the kinds of people that Jesus encountered during his earthly ministry over 2,000 years ago. We're taking a look at this series, and we're seeing how Jesus changed people's lives when he encountered them. Well, today's encounter takes us to a party that actually came to a very abrupt ending. If you want to follow along today with us, I'm on John chapter 2, the Gospel of John chapter 2, starting with verse 1. This is where we're looking at today, this party that Jesus is at. But before we dive into the text here, a little bit of background maybe. The party that Jesus is at here is a wedding. A wedding. And weddings, maybe in our world today, weddings are a big deal, right? Weddings take a lot of planning. They take months, maybe a year of putting the plans in place. Anyone here been involved in the planning of a wedding before? Yeah, it consumes everything, right? There's so much to do, right? You've got the rehearsal dinner, you got the ceremony and the reception and the gift opening and the honeymoon. There is so much to plan for a wedding. It consumes so much. Weddings are a big deal today, right? Okay, now imagine this. Because weddings in the days of Jesus were an even bigger deal than they are today. Now, if you're like me, that's a frightening thought, right? But it's true. The weddings in Jesus' day were an even bigger deal than they are today. Here's why. Because in Jesus' day, everything was centered on community. Everything was built on community in Jesus' day. It's not so much that way in our culture. We're more focused on individuals. And so a wedding in our culture is about two individual people being united as one. That's great. Or maybe we think of it as two individual families being united now as one through that couple. Well, this really wasn't so in Jesus' day. Jesus' day, it was all about community. Everything in his day was built on community. And in his day, people knew that strong communities were built on strong families. And so if you had strong families in a community, this meant that you were going to have a strong economy. You were going to have a strong military. And you would have a strong faith in God. The stronger your families were, the stronger the community was. And so everyone wins when another family is being formed. And so in the days of Jesus, when there was a wedding, the entire community was there to celebrate. Everyone was invited. Absolutely everyone, right? This was a big deal. And these wedding receptions in the days of Jesus, they did not just last for one day. They did not just last for a weekend. No, wedding receptions in the days of Jesus lasted for an entire week. Can you imagine doing the YMCA for 7 days straight? Right? It's ridiculous. But that's how it was. Weddings in the days of Jesus were such a big celebration. So this meant lots of people and lots of planning and lots of food and especially lots of wine. And so you can imagine how terrible of a thing it is for Jesus and his disciples to arrive at this wedding reception when they abruptly run out of wine. This is a big deal. It's a big deal. We're left to assume that the people at the party are expecting several more days of celebrating, but that's now come to an end because no more wine meant no more party. It's a big deal, right? And so Jesus is here. He's here at this celebration, and you can understand now why this is such a big deal that they have now run out of wine. The party is ending. But poor Jesus. Jesus is here, and he kind of gets caught in the middle. because Jesus is there. And you see, he kind of gets involved in this situation a little, maybe it seems like against his will, right? Jesus, at this point in his ministry, again, this is John chapter 2. Not a lot has happened for Jesus yet. He has just gotten started. He has done, up to this point, no miracles. There have been no significant teachings. There have been no raising of the dead, right? Jesus has just gotten started. He really just called some disciples. That's all he's really done. And now he's being thrown into the middle of this situation, this party problem. Right? Guess who is the one who gets the great Messiah involved in this little party problem? Who is it? Mom, right? Now this actually would have been a great Mother's Day text here, right? You can almost imagine this encounter between Jesus and his mom, right? You can just imagine, "Psst, son, come here. No, come here. Stand up straight. Now, Jesus. Now, these people, they've run out of wine. Now, I need you to bring them or get them some more wine. Now, don't you roll your eyes at me. Now, I remember you told me how you created the whole world in 7 days. All the animals came in one day. This will be a snap." And so what's Jesus' reaction? Do you remember his reaction in chapter 2, verse 4? Take a look. What does he say? He says, "Mom," right? "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." Right? Jesus is rather reluctant to get involved, isn't he? Right? Well, now I don't know what translation you have, but actually there are some Bibles that have a verse missing between verses 4 and 5. I don't know if you have your Bible open in front of you right now, but there is a verse sometimes missing between verses 4 and 5. If you have the missing verse, it reads something like this: "And then Mary came to Jesus and said, 'Blessed Son, do I need to remind you about the time that I rode on a donkey, 9 months pregnant, having contractions, so I could give birth to you in a cave? I brought you into this world, and I can bring you out again. Now bring these people some wine.'" And then verse 5 then reads, "His mother said to the servants, 'Do whatever he tells you.' Right, son?" And so you know the rest of the story. Right, they go and they get those big jugs, they fill them with water, and it turns into wine. Problem solved. The party goes on. Now, but you have to admit that this encounter with Jesus is a little strange, right? You really wouldn't expect an encounter like this to be included in a series like this, right? Right? Jesus is fixing a party problem, right? He's not doing this big miracle where he's raising the dead or healing a sickness or doing a great teaching, right? Where does this story fit? How does this encounter fit? Because this doesn't seem like the kind of thing that Jesus is normally up to, right? You can kind of understand why Jesus is a little reluctant to get involved, right? I mean, maybe Jesus feels that he's a little above party problems, right? Maybe Jesus would like his first miracle to be about something a little more significant than fixing a little social blunder, running out of wine at a wedding, right? Maybe Jesus knows that he has come to this world to fix more important problems than finding a bartender for a week-long wedding reception, right? Well, so how does this story fit? Why does this encounter with Jesus, why is it included in this series? Well, you see, this is interesting. Why is Jesus so reluctant? Do you remember his reaction? What is the reason that Jesus gives for not wanting to provide wine right away at that wedding reception? What does he tell his mother? He says this. In chapter 2, verse 4, Jesus says this. He says, "Mom, my hour has not yet come." It's kind of unusual, right? I think this is actually kind of interesting My hour has not yet come. Because if you know the Gospel of John, if you know what he's doing in this gospel, you know that Jesus uses this phrase, my hour that's coming, my hour that has not yet come. And Jesus, by his hour, is always talking about his death on the cross. Right? That's the hour that's coming. That's the thing that's coming. The reason why Jesus has come to this world, that is the hour that has not yet come. But in this story, that doesn't quite fit, right? His hour, his death, right? It's almost as if the conversation went this way. Son, can you provide some wine for this wedding? And Jesus replies, no thanks, I don't feel like dying today. It doesn't fit, does it? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So what does Jesus mean here? My hour has not yet come. Here's what I think. I think that Jesus is not above party problems. I think that Jesus is not above this wedding reception issue that he's dealing with this day. I think that Jesus is actually here for a purpose at this time because this is actually the perfect first miracle for Jesus to be involved with, because Jesus knows that his ministry is all about parties. It's true. It's true. Jesus knows that it's the whole point of his ministry to restore celebration to this creation. That's why Jesus has come. Jesus has come to restore celebration to this creation. He's come to bring joy to the world. He's come so that people can celebrate life again. That's why Jesus has come. This is why he is here. And so Jesus, he's at this wedding. They've run out of wine, right? And Jesus comes, and what does he do? He sees these people, the celebration's about to end, and what does he do? He restores the celebration. People, this is actually the perfect first miracle of Jesus because this is exactly what he came to do. Sure, he hasn't died just yet. But this is the point. He has come to this world to die and to rise again. That's the hour that's coming. That's the big party that's on its way so that all creation has a reason to celebrate. And so Jesus here at this wedding, he recognizes that these people would be crazy not to start the party a little early. Why can't they celebrate a little sooner, right? Jesus restores the celebration. Now, I don't know where you are today in your life right now. Maybe life is one big party. Maybe life is awesome. You've got a great job. The bank account is full. Life is just spectacular. It's one big party. You're at the celebration. But maybe for others of you, maybe not so much. Maybe others of you recognize that that's not what your life is like right now. Sure, we're here to sing and to give God praise, but quite frankly, you're finding it very hard to do that with every single thing weighing on you in your world, the real world, right? The real world where there are real issues to deal with. Maybe right now you're living in the real world where there is stress at every angle, and it's consuming you. Maybe you're living here in the real world where there is just some issue that's just weighing on your heart, maybe a big decision that you have to make. You live here in the real world where maybe right now you are dealing with a shrinking bank account, and you just don't know what next month is going to bring. You live here in the real world where there are so many issues that you deal with every day. Maybe you're dealing with depression, and it robs you of joy every single day. I don't know what you're dealing with today. Maybe there were poor decisions that you've made over your life, maybe one poor decision, and you are still dealing with the consequences of that. Maybe you feel consumed by anxiety, consumed by an addiction, consumed with something in your life. Maybe there's sickness happening in your household. Maybe it's cancer in yourself or a loved one. Maybe there's someone that you've lost, and you miss them so much every day. These things that we deal with in our day-to-day life, they just consume us, don't they? They weigh us down. They don't let go, right? They consume us. They rob us of so many things. They rob us of joy. They rob us of peace. They rob us of sleep at night, don't they? These things that we deal with here in the real world, they consume us. Now, I don't know what you're dealing with today, but you're dealing with something, aren't you? Well, know this. Jesus, he's not above your problems. He's not. Jesus, in fact, has come to be with you as you endure these struggles that you are facing here in the real world in your life. And more than that, Jesus has come to restore celebration in your very life. One day, we're going to look around, and your life is going to be free from stress. Can you imagine that? It's going to be a great day, right? One day, there's going to be no such thing as money problems because there will be no more money. We won't need it. It won't exist anymore. One day, there will be no such thing as medicine because all sicknesses will be healed. They'll be taken away for good. One day, depression will have no more hold over you. Anxiety will have no hold over you. Addictions will have no power over you one day. One day, that day is coming. One day, one beautiful day, all will be well. All will be right. All pain will be taken away. All sadness will be taken away. One day, those loved ones that you miss so dearly, one day, you're going to see them again. And not just see them, you're going to hold them, and you're going to hug them, and you're going to laugh with them again, because this is what Jesus came to do. He came to restore celebration. He came to replace sorrow now with joy. He came to replace pain in this world and replace it with happiness. He came to find the darkest, the loneliest, the saddest corners of this world and infuse them with laughter. This is what Jesus came to do, not just for one day, not just for 1 week, but a party that will last forever. This is what Jesus came to do. So people, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate the life that we have been given today. Let's celebrate the life that we are promised one day. Jesus is coming back. He's coming back. He has defeated the power of Satan. He has forgiven all sin. Death itself has been conquered. Jesus is coming back, and he's bringing plenty of wine. This party better get started a little sooner. We would be crazy not to start this celebration a little early. Why? Because Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Hallelujah. Please stand.